Hello, my name is Dr. Allie Baumgartner, and I am the Paleontology Collections Manager here at the Sternberg Museum. And today I'm going to be talking to you about something that is central to being a collections manager, environmental monitoring. When I say that, you probably don't think about what I'm about to tell you. Environmental monitoring seems like something that probably happens outside. There's probably animals involved, machinery maybe, who knows? That's not quite what I mean when I talk about environmental monitoring in the collection. So as a collections manager, my job basically has two parts. My purpose is to manage the collection and preserve it for perpetuity, which means that the goal is to have this stuff around forever. Lofty goal, I'm doing my best. The other goal is to maximize use of the collection. We want people to come study the things that we have here, because if you have a big old collection that's locked away and no one can see it, it's hard to justify. So we're trying to really bridge that gap and do both of those things. So when we talk about managing the collection and preserving it for perpetuity, we want to maintain both the specimens themselves as well as their associated data. And there are kind of three main factors that I'm going to be talking about today that we need to watch out for when we are trying to preserve our specimens. One is light. You probably don't think about that inside a building. But you are probably familiar with how damaging light can be. If you've ever left something in your car for a while, forgot it was there, like a shirt or something, you pull it out a couple weeks later, it might have bleached a little bit in the sun. You know, we talk about sun-bleached bones out in the desert. We are very aware, if you've ever gotten a sunburn, we're very aware as humans of how damaging light can be. But we typically associate that with sunlight. So artificial lights can also do that, though to a vastly different degree. But if we're trying to preserve these specimens forever is a long time, and eventually all of that exposure builds up. So we try to keep our fossils in the dark as much as we possibly can to protect them a little bit. In order to do that, we have metal cabinets. And these cabinets are helpful for some other reasons too. So we have different ones for geology versus all of paleontology, but the purpose of the cabinet is it's metal, which makes it opaque. It also keeps everything that needs to be inside, and everything that needs to be outside. Which is helpful for another reason, to really maintain consistent temperature and precipitation. So as a collections manager, I think a lot about temperature and, I meant humidity, not precipitation. I really hope it's not raining in here. Temperature and humidity. So basically, how warm or cold is it versus how wet does it feel? So one of the tools to do this is my handy dandy hygrometer. Thank you, Christina, for leaving this behind. So what this tells me is it gives me daily readings of temperature and relative humidity. And that's really helpful because we really want to keep both of those values pretty stable. Ideally, there is a range that we want to keep both the temperature and the humidity, but your ability to do that is very limited by the environmental controls of the building that you are in. Love the dome. Not great for maintaining a consistent temperature and humidity. So we do the best that we can, and that's one of the major reasons why we have these cabinets, is to keep things in a narrower range. So why does it matter? Why do we need to take care of maintaining a consistent temperature or humidity? Temperature might be a little bit more obvious. If you've ever lived someplace with very cold winters and very hot summers, Kansas, you are aware of what freeze-thaw cycles can do to objects. So changes in temperature can cause objects, materials to expand and contract. If you've ever tried to open the lid of a jar that's stuck, you just can't get it to budge, one way to do that is by running it under hot water for a few seconds. It will expand, you can open the jar. That's true of fossils too. So too much variation in temperature can start to break things down over time, especially when compared with humidity. So we want to keep the temperature in a narrow range as best we can. The preferred temperature for a lot of collections is actually a little bit chillier than humans tend to prefer, but we do what we can with the building that we have. And finally, humidity. Humidity is maybe the most dangerous thing in a collection, and I'll give you 2 examples as to why. So at the Sternberg Museum, we have a really nice collection of meteorites. But many of the meteorites are iron. And so when you combine iron with oxygen and humidity, you get rust. And so in order to minimize the rusting of our meteorites, they were already in cabinets, and that was not enough to help them. They are now also in jewel cases, so these plastic clamshell jewel cases, or in glass containers. And then within that, they're within a plastic bag with a silica desiccant. So periodically, collection staff will go around and check on the silica desiccant. The beads within it will begin to turn colors if it's absorbed a lot of moisture. So we keep an eye on that to make sure that we don't have any more rusting meteorites. The other example is a little bit more flamboyant, we'll put it that way. So if you've never worked in paleontology collections, you've probably never heard of pyrite disease, and oh, do I envy you. Pyrite disease is a genuine concern of mine. So depending on the depositional environment that a fossil is preserved in, so basically what was in the matrix, what was in the soil, what was in the environment when it was preserved. If there's pyrite present, there are a couple different forms of pyrite. It's a pretty common mineral. Depending on the type of pyrite present, it could lead to pyrite disease. So pyrite, if it is exposed to higher humidities, if you have pyrite, which has iron and sulfur in it, if pyrite mixes with the oxygen in the atmosphere and water, you get a chemical reaction, which will, it has iron sulfide, sulfuric acid, which goes without saying, not great, but also sulfur dioxide, which is a harmful gas. We don't want this. This is bad. It destroys the fossils. It can be dangerous to us. We try to absolutely minimize the likelihood of pyrite disease. And so in order to do that, we have what's called a fossil hospital. So periodically, as collection staff are going through cabinets, if we run across a fossil that has the beginnings of pyrite disease, we will liberate it and check it into the fossil hospital. There are some localities that are more prone to this than others, so we definitely keep an eye on those in particular. So if we begin to see changes in the fossil, we'll move it to the fossil hospital. And that way they're all of the specimens with pyrite disease are basically quarantined together. That makes it a lot easier for us to deal with all of that at the same time in a single location. So similar to what we do with the meteorites, we bag them up and we combine that with again, another silica desiccant, and we keep an eye on that every few months or so. We'll go through everything in the fossil hospital, check on the status. We have little notes that go along with it to say when the desiccant was last changed in the fossil hospital so that we can keep track of things. So this example that I have has a story that goes along with it. So the collection here, the paleontology collection here, has only had a collections manager for about the last 5 years or so. And before that, it was a little bit more of the Wild West. There was a lot less day-to-day management. It tended to be grad students who were in training and might not have really wanted to be working in the paleontology collections because while I think it's great, many people would find this excruciatingly boring. So one of the first discoveries I made as a collections manager, I was cleaning up part of the collection, and hidden behind a large object, I found this tray. inside, well, I couldn't tell what was inside at first, because what you can see here are basically the exploded remains of fossil snail shells that have completely succumbed to pyrite disease. If you look at the cards, the specimen cards associated with it, you can see that there are acid stains from the sulfuric acid that was produced as a result. I don't know what the state of these specimens was when they were hidden. I don't know if it was preventable before that, but at one point these could have been salvaged. And that's one of the reasons why it's really important to have a collection manager, someone whose day-to-day job is to protect and preserve the fossils, so that I don't have to tell you stories of exploded fossil snails. So this is one of the sadder and more important parts of my job, making sure that I can preserve these fossils for future generations. If you like this video, give it a like, subscribe, and we'll have another one coming out in 2 weeks. Bye.
Thanks for joining us in A New Way to Museum with the Sternberg Museum of Natural History. If you enjoyed this video, like it and subscribe to our channel. Hit the bell for notifications when we release a new video. Support us on Patreon for early access and exclusive content. You can also follow us on all our social media. Links are found in the description. Thanks for watching, and follow your curiosity to new discoveries.